There is a voice in your head. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Quiet, familiar, but it's the reason you hesitate, delay, shrink. You've called it caution, logic, even your gut. But it's none of those things. It's a recording, a script written by fear and failure, looped so many times you forgot it wasn't you. But what if I told you one mental trick could shut it down? For good, not theory, not hype. A command so sharp it splits your identity in two, who you've been and who you're about to become. If you listen closely, this moment will mark your turning point. There is a voice that lives in your mind. You didn't choose it, you didn't invite it, but you obey it. Not because it's wise, not because it's right, but because it sounds like you. It speaks in your tone. It uses your memories. It wears your past like armor and your failures like evidence. And so you listen, you hesitate, you retreat, you wait, you convince yourself it's protection, but it's prison. Because that voice is not your intuition, it's not some higher guidance. It is a parasite, installed, inherited, rehearsed. Most men never question the voice they wake up with. They assume because it's in their head, it must be them. They mistake familiarity for truth. But understand this now, the subconscious mind doesn't speak in facts, it speaks in patterns. And the voice that dominates your thinking today was shaped not by who you are, but by who you were, by what you survived, by what hurt you, by what embarrassed you. It was shaped by 1,000 moments you never processed and 1,000,000 repetitions you never questioned. You didn't write this voice. The world did. Fear did. Failure did. Someone else's opinion did. You were not born with doubt. You were taught it. You were taught to shrink, taught to question yourself, taught to dim your fire so others could feel safe in your presence. And every time you paused before speaking, every time you backed down from building, every time you chose silence over boldness, another line of code was added. Another line in the script. Until now, it plays without your permission. You don't even hear it anymore. You just follow it. But let me be clear. This voice is not wise. It is not your guide. It is the ghost of your past, trying to survive in your future. It doesn't want progress. It wants preservation. It wants the loop to keep running because the loop feels safe, even when it's destroying you. And if you don't override it, it will lead your entire life. It will shape every decision you make, every risk you don't take, every move you never make, not because you couldn't, but because you waited for permission from a voice that never had authority to begin with. It doesn't scream, you can't. It says, maybe not now. It doesn't yell, you'll fail. It whispers, just think about it more. It wears 1,000 disguises, logic, timing, caution, but its function is always the same. Keep you the same, keep you small, keep you obedient to the loop. You must see it for what it is, a foreign script in a familiar voice. And the moment you recognize that voice as separate from you, you gain your first real power. Not because the voice goes silent yet, but because you've stopped calling it your own. That's the first crack in the shell. That's the first step toward killing doubt at its root. And once that split begins, once that identity fracture is exposed, everything you've ever wanted becomes possible. Because from that moment forward, you don't just hear the voice, you challenge it. Most men try to think their way out of doubt. They pace, overanalyze, argue with the voice in their head like it's a fair debate. But you don't win battles by negotiating with a thief. Doubt doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't care how smart you are. It's not here to be reasoned with. It's here to dominate. And every time you let it speak without interruption, it grows. It sharpens its claws. It reinforces its place in your system. But today we break that cycle, not by hoping it fades, not by hoping we feel better, but by taking command right now. The subconscious does not obey truth. It obeys repetition with emotion. That means every time you've hesitated, every time you've paused and let the voice finish its sentence, you were reinforcing that loop. You were teaching your brain that doubt is the leader, that hesitation is wisdom, that delay is protection. And so it repeats. You don't even hear it starting anymore. It begins and you follow. But not anymore, because today you install the override, your first command. The phrase that splits the loop wide open and forces the system to reboot. Say it aloud now. Shut it down. This is not a whisper. It's not a positive thought. It's a verbal strike, A full volume interruption. You say it like a command to a wild dog that's crossed the line one too many times. Shut it down. This phrase is not about motivation, it's about dominance. You are not trying to convince the doubt to leave. You are evicting it. Mid-sentence. No warning, no softness. You catch even the first few words of hesitation. I don't know if I'm ready. And you slam the mental door. Shut it down. Because here's the truth most men never hear. Hesitation is a muscle, so is interruption. One gets stronger the more you use it. The other gets weaker the more you cut it off. You've trained hesitation for years without even realizing it. But now you train power. You train override. Every time the loop begins and you interrupt it, you are rewiring the brain. You are teaching the subconscious that there's a new authority in the system. That doubt is no longer the voice that gets to finish the sentence. You are. Do not wait until you feel weak to use this. That's too late. You install it daily. Like a soldier drilling for war. You use it when you're alone. You use it when you're strong. You use it when the voice isn't even talking. So when it does, your response is already automatic. This is how power is built. Not with books, not with hope, with training, repetition, command. Write this now and speak it aloud. I do not follow hesitation. I interrupt it, I override it, I shut it down. Again, louder. Let your nervous system hear it. Let the old script feel its grip slipping. Shut it down. This is your first step into the new self, not a better you. A rebuilt one, a man with weapons. A man who no longer thinks about silencing doubt. He does it on command. Doubt almost never shows up in your mind dressed like fear. It's smarter than that. It wears a suit. It speaks in reason. It pretends to be your protector. It says, be logical, be realistic, think it through. And because it doesn't sound like panic, because it sounds calm, measured, thoughtful, you trust it. You follow it. You mistake the lie for wisdom. But here's the truth. Most of what you've called logic is just fear in disguise. Most of what you've labeled caution is just the loop trying to keep you from becoming who you're meant to be. The voice doesn't scream, don't do it. It whispers, maybe just wait a little longer. It says, this might not be the right time, or let's get a little more information. And you nod, you pause, you put it off, and in that pause, doubt wins. Not because it was right, not because it had better evidence, but because it disguised itself as your advisor. And it fooled you. Again. You've been calling fear strategy. You've been calling hesitation maturity. But if you're honest, you're not being logical. You're being led by a pattern, a loop, a voice that's been rehearsed so many times it sounds like common sense. But let me make this very clear. Logic is not the enemy. False logic is. The kind that only ever talks when you're about to do something new. The kind that never shows up when you're wasting time, playing small, or staying safe. It only wakes up when you're about to act, about to grow, about to risk. That's how you know it's not logic. It's the loop trying to protect itself, because the mind is not built for greatness. It's built for survival. And to the survival mind, new equals dangerous. So even if the new thing is building a business, having a conversation, posting your truth, walking into the gym, or making a call, the system sees it as unfamiliar, and unfamiliar is unsafe. So what does it do? It sends doubt wrapped in reason. It sends fear disguised as logic. It says, don't rush. You're just being smart. No, you're being small. You're being obedient to a past version of yourself that's terrified of the unknown. You don't need more logic. You need more truth. And the truth is this. If the voice only speaks up when you're about to rise, it's not there to guide you. It's there to stop you. That voice is not wise. It is wired. A system designed not to elevate but to maintain. And the longer you entertain it, the more it hardens into identity. So from this point forward, the test is simple. Does this thought expand me or shrink me? Does it come from a place of power or protection? If it shrinks, if it delays, if it talks only when growth is near, you don't follow it. You shut it down. Say this now and say it like a decision. I no longer follow the voice of disguised fear. I no longer obey the logic of the loop. I act on truth. I move in power. I do not wait. I decide. Doubt isn't trying to destroy you. That's not its job. It's not some evil force sent to ruin your life. In fact, doubt is doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect you. But not the real you, not the man you're building. It's protecting the version of you that's terrified of change, the version of you that was shaped in failure, rejection, confusion. That old identity you say you're done with, doubt is guarding it like a soldier at the gates. And every time you move forward, speak boldly, step outside your usual rhythm, doubt shows up, not to kill you, but to pull you back in line. This is what most men never realize. They think doubt is the enemy, when really it's just the bodyguard of their old self. You try to grow, and the system says, wait, that's unfamiliar, that's unsafe. It's not personal, it's primal. Your subconscious isn't wired to elevate you. It's wired to preserve you. It doesn't ask, is this action aligned with my purpose? It asks, does this feel like what we've always done? And if the answer is no, if the new decision feels too bold, too risky, too different, the system triggers an alert. And that alert is what you feel as doubt. It's not an attack, it's a reaction. And until you understand this, you will keep fighting the wrong war. You will keep thinking there's something wrong with you for hesitating. You'll think the fear means stop. You'll think the uncertainty means don't. But those feelings aren't signs of danger, they're signs of transition. You're shifting out of alignment with the old identity. And the system hates that, because the old identity, no matter how painful, is familiar. And to the subconscious, familiar equals safe. So what does it do? It activates protection mode. It floods your mind with reasons to pause. It plays highlight reels of every failure, every rejection, every moment you didn't measure up. It's trying to remind you who you were. Not because it wants to hold you back, but because it thinks you forgot what's safe. This is why men sabotage themselves right at the edge of progress, not because they're lazy, not because they're weak, but because they're still obeying the code of a past identity. Doubt is a signal, not that something is wrong, but that something is changing. The more doubt you feel, the more evidence you have that you're crossing the line between who you were and who you're becoming. So don't fear the doubt. Don't argue with it. Don't try to outrun it. Just see it for what it is, a security alarm going off, because the door to a new future just cracked open. And when it rings, you don't flinch. You don't apologize. You speak with authority. Say it now. I am not here to preserve the past. I am here to build the future. I do not obey the system. I reprogram it. I am not the old me. I am the one who decides what comes next. The loop wins because it hides. It doesn't shout. It doesn't storm into the room. It slips in unnoticed. And that's how it survives, by staying vague. You feel it, but you never name it. You obey it, but you never confront it. And that's exactly what keeps you stuck, because what you do not identify, you cannot interrupt. What you do not face, you cannot rewire. So the loop keeps running, the voice keeps whispering, and you keep calling it just how I think. But today that ends, because now you take the loop and drag it into the light. You force it to speak clearly. You write it down. You read it out loud. You take the whisper and turn it into a sentence, a paragraph, a script, and then you tear it apart piece by piece. This is your first act of rebellion. No more silence, no more vague emotion. You get precise, because clarity is power, and power kills the loop. Get something to write with. Right now, not later, not after this chapter. Now. Write the exact sentences that show up when you hesitate, the ones that speak right before you make a move, when you're about to post, when you're about to speak up, when you're about to take the risk. What do you hear? It might sound like, I always screw this up. What if I get it wrong again? I'm not good enough for this. They're going to see right through me. Why even try? It never works. Be ruthless. Don't filter. Don't try to make it sound nice. Let the voice speak, and once you've written them out, look at them, read them, say them aloud, hear how ridiculous they sound when they're not hiding behind emotion, hear how weak they are when dragged into daylight. And then you ask one question: whose voice is this really? Because it's not yours. You weren't born with it. You didn't speak this way when you were 5 years old, chasing dreams with no hesitation. This voice was installed: repetition, rejection, influence, a failure that echoed, a parent's disappointment, a teacher's sarcasm, a moment that got replayed so many times, it became identity. But now you've caught it, and if you can catch it, you can kill it. Now you speak back. You declare the override. I am not the voice in my head. I am the one who decides what it says next. Say it again, louder. This is not a mantra. This is a mental command. This is you telling your subconscious, new sheriff, new rules. You are no longer a slave to thoughts that were never yours to begin with. You are no longer a puppet pulled by invisible scripts. From this moment on, every whisper of doubt will be met with clarity and confrontation. Write it, speak it, rewire it. That's the practice every day. Because the voice of doubt dies in the presence of deliberate identity. You do not follow the loop, you break it, and in its place you build a new voice, one that leads, one that commands, one that builds. Most men live as if every thought they think is the truth, as if every voice in their head is an oracle, as if their internal dialogue was carved in stone and handed down by fate. But it wasn't. That voice you hear every day, the one that doubts, delays, hesitates, criticizes, that voice isn't you. It sounds like you. It speaks in your tone. It uses your memories. But it's not you. It's a script, a recording, a mental collage of everything you've heard, felt, feared, and failed at. And none of it is permanent unless you keep obeying it. Thoughts are not identity. Thoughts are content. You are not the voice. You are the one who hears it. You are not the loop. You are the one who chooses whether it runs. This is what separates the passive from the powerful. Most men think the presence of a thought means it's true. But you know better now. You understand that a thought is just a suggestion. It only becomes a command if you agree with it. And if you don't, you override it, you rewrite it, you replace it. Say this now: I am not the voice in my head. I decide what it says next. That is the line that breaks the cycle. That is the phrase that splits your identity from your programming. That is how you go from being a passenger to the author of your mind. Because everything changes when you stop reacting and start rewriting. Everything shifts when you stop asking, why do I think this? And start saying, that's not what I choose to think anymore. You are the author. And the author edits, the author rewrites, the author deletes what no longer serves the story. You are not here to transcribe your history. You are here to create your future. And that future begins with a new script. Not tomorrow, not when it feels more real, right now. When the old voice shows up, and it will, you don't argue with it. You don't reason with it. You don't explain yourself to it. You say no. Then you write the next line. You write the one that aligns with the man you are becoming. You write the sentence that leads you forward. That's how you take your power back, not by never hearing doubt again, but by refusing to follow it. Speak this out loud until it burns through the old programming. I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker. I am not the past. I am the author. I do not obey the loop. I write the line that comes next. This is the truth that most men never discover. The mind is not a master. It's a tool, and you are the one who holds it, the one who commands it, the one who shapes it into weapon or weakness. Today you choose weapon. Today you become the man who doesn't just hear the voice, he answers it. He overwrites it. He becomes louder than it, because you are not the voice. You are the one who decides what it says next. And that power is yours now. You don't rise by reading quotes. You don't build power by thinking about change. Identity is not upgraded through inspiration. It is installed through ritual, daily, deliberate, emotional repetition. That's how belief is built. That's how the old voice loses its grip. Not by waiting for it to go quiet, but by becoming louder than it, by making your override phrases the dominant frequency in your system. The subconscious doesn't know what's true. It only knows what's repeated with force. So you don't whisper the new identity. You shout it. You don't say it once. You rehearse it like a weapon. The reason doubt still shows up in your mind is not because it's strong. It's because it's familiar. The loop has been rehearsed for years. Every time you hesitated, every time you told yourself, I'm not ready, every time you repeated the lie, it embedded deeper. The loop became law, not because it was real, but because it was repeated. And now we flip the system. We don't think positive. We install power with emotion, with intensity, with volume. This is the ritual of override. Your override phrase is not an affirmation. It's a mental command. It's a strike against the old identity. It's the phrase you train into your system so completely that when hesitation shows up, your response is instant, like breath. Like instinct. You don't negotiate. You don't delay. You say it with fire. Start with this. Shut it down. Say it now, not softly, like you mean it, like you're speaking to the part of you that's been running the show for years. Shut it down again, louder again, until your nervous system wakes up and realizes something new is in command. This is the ritual. Each morning before the world speaks, you speak first. You stand, you breathe, you repeat your override phrase 10 times out loud. Not like a checklist, like a drill, like a soldier training for war, with tone, with emotion, with full body engagement. This is how you teach the subconscious what to obey. It obeys repetition. It obeys emotion. It obeys what is loud and often. Choose your phrase, train it daily. It could be, I execute, I finish, I win, or I am decisive, I move without hesitation, or I follow command, not comfort. Pick one, own it, say it until it belongs to you, say it until it echoes without effort, and don't wait for the perfect moment. You practice when it's quiet. So when the voice of doubt starts speaking, you're already armed. Most men wait until they're falling apart to try and take control. That's too late. You train now so you don't flinch later. This is how the new voice takes over. Not with hope, not with good intentions, with repetition, volume, and fire. That's how belief is built. That's how identity is installed. Say this now. I do not follow the old voice. I override it with power. I rehearse my identity daily. I am the one who commands. Say it again. Say it like your life depends on it, because it does. Most men wait to feel right before they act. They sit in silence, hoping for a spark. They delay decisions, waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. And when it doesn't, they say, I guess today isn't the day. But here's the truth. The men you admire, the ones who built legacies, they didn't rise on emotion. They rose on decision. They didn't move because they felt like it. They moved because they decided to. And then they repeated that decision until it became law. Emotion is a passenger. Decision is the driver. And the future obeys the one who takes the wheel. This is the shift most never make. They think discipline is some rare gift, that the men who execute daily must be built different. They're not. They've just learned the truth. Waiting for emotion is weakness disguised as patience. The man who commands doesn't wait to feel power. He declares it. He speaks the state he needs. He declares it until the body follows, until the emotions adjust, until the nervous system bends to the command. You wake up tired. The old voice says, rest. The new voice says, this is the day I dominate. You feel unsure. The old voice says, let's wait. The new voice says, I decide and I move. Every emotion that once held you hostage becomes irrelevant the moment you declare who you are. Not quietly, not like a hope, like a verdict, like a sentence that cannot be appealed. This is not hype. This is law. The subconscious is not loyal to truth. It is loyal to repetition. So if you've been repeating, I'm tired, I'm stuck, I don't feel ready, your mind installs that as your identity. And then you live it. Not because you're broken, but because you're untrained. You haven't been taught to speak power before you feel it. But now you will. Here is your new standard. I do not wait for motivation. I declare movement. I do not obey emotion. I obey my decision. This is the practice. Wake up and declare your identity before your feelings have a chance to speak. Say, I command this day. I lead my mind. I act now. Say it out loud, with force, with fire, until the emotional resistance fades beneath the authority of your voice. The man who follows emotion is a slave to chance. The man who leads with declaration becomes unstoppable. You don't rise when it feels right. You rise when you say it's time. And then you move again and again until the world adjusts to the rhythm you've created. Say this now and let it burn into your bones. I do not rise by emotion. I rise by decision. I do not wait to feel ready. I command readiness with my words. I do not ask for motivation. I install discipline. And because of that, my future belongs to me. Say it again until it drowns out the feeling, until you no longer wait to act. You act and make it right later. That's how leaders are built. That's how doubt dies. That's how you win. The battlefield is not out there. It's in the first 10 minutes after you wake up. Before the world speaks, before the phone lights up, before the past creeps in, your mind is wide open, vulnerable, absorbing. And if you do not take command in that moment, something else will. Your feelings, your fears, the leftover noise from yesterday. This is where most men lose the day before it even starts. But you will not be one of them, because from now on, your morning is not a time to wake up. It is a time to weaponize. The subconscious mind is most programmable right after sleep. In that state, your guard is down, your logic is soft, and your emotional chemistry is malleable. So what you feed your mind in those first moments is not just heard, it's installed. This is why the men who lead their lives don't wait for motivation. They build momentum. The moment their eyes open, they go to war. Not with effort, with ritual, with intention, with repetition. That's what you install now. The morning weapon, 3 parts. 3 drills, every morning, no exceptions. These are not optional. They are the foundation of your command system. Part 1, command. Before your feet hit the ground, you speak. out loud, not a whisper, not a thought. A declaration. You say, "This is my day. I command my thoughts. I command my energy. I command my outcome." Then immediately follow it with your override phrase, "Shut it down." You are not asking to feel ready. You are declaring readiness. This one ritual alone starts to shift your entire emotional chemistry within days. Your subconscious begins to realize we don't follow the past anymore. We follow command. Part 2, identity reading. Most men scroll. You read your script. You don't absorb more information. You install identity. You read a paragraph written by you describing the man you are becoming in the present tense. Not "I hope to be," not "someday I will." You say, "I am decisive. I speak with power. I execute with clarity. I do not negotiate with doubt. I finish what I start. I move in strength." You read this aloud with intensity, like you're instructing an army, because you are, and that army is your mind. Part 3, visualization. Sit. Breathe, close your eyes, and see yourself acting, not wishing, not hesitating, executing, walking into the room with presence, finishing the task before doubt can speak, speaking with certainty, moving before emotion decides the pace. Feel it, see it, own it. Your subconscious does not know the difference between real and rehearsed. It only remembers what is repeated with emotion. So you give it a new memory, a future memory, a snapshot of who you are becoming. These 3 rituals, done for 7 straight mornings, will change the rhythm of your thoughts before you even realize it. You will begin to hear the old voice rise, and your override will fire without hesitation. This is how leaders are built, not by reading, by ritual, not by feeling, by command. Say this now: I command my morning, I program my mind, I lead my life. Again, louder. Let your system know the shift has begun. The war is won before the world even wakes, if you show up with your weapon loaded. Repetition is the tool of gods and slaves alike. The only difference is who holds the hammer. Every identity you see walking through the world, every man who moves with power or shrinks with fear, was sculpted by one force: repetition. Not talent, not luck, not chance. Repetition. Words repeated long enough that they stopped being thoughts and became truth. Actions rehearsed long enough that they stopped being choices and became instinct. And if you don't take control of that repetition, the world will do it for you. Your fears will do it for you. Your past will do it for you. And you will wonder why you keep living a life you say you don't want. Understand this now. Your mind does not care what is true. It cares what is repeated. It does not check facts. It checks frequency. It does not measure the logic of a thought. It measures the emotion behind it. That's why a lie repeated with enough certainty becomes more powerful than a truth whispered once. And that is why most men fail. They whisper their new identity once a week, but live in the old one every day. The subconscious listens to the loudest voice, the most frequent voice, the most emotional voice. And right now, for most men, that voice belongs to doubt. You will not be most men. You will weaponize repetition. You will no longer casually hope to become something new. You will carve it into your nervous system, one declaration, one act, one emotional repetition at a time. You will make your new identity so loud, so constant, so full of conviction that the old voice no longer feels like home. It feels like a foreign invader. How do you do this? You do not repeat weakly. You do not mumble through your declarations like a man reciting a grocery list. You speak them with fire, with breath, with emotion. You engage your body, your voice, your spirit. You make the repetition an experience, not a chore. Because what you rehearse with intensity, the mind installs with urgency. You say, I am decisive. I act without hesitation. I move in power. I finish what I start. And you don't just say it once. You say it morning, midday, and night. You say it when you win. You say it when you lose. You say it when you feel like it, and especially when you don't. Because every repetition is a strike of the hammer. Every declaration is a laying of the brick. Every moment you repeat your chosen identity with force, the walls of the old self begin to crack. Say this now and let it burn. My mind obeys repetition, not reason. I train it daily. I sculpt it intentionally. I declare who I am until the world has no choice but to recognize it. Again, louder. My mind obeys repetition. I decide what it repeats. This is the law now, not motivation, not chance, not hope. Repetition with emotion. Identity by design. And if you stay faithful to the repetition, the man you speak of will no longer be a dream. He will be the one walking into every room, commanding every moment, building the life the old voice was never meant to touch. You cannot rise above the identity you repeat. You can try, you can grind, you can push harder, but eventually the subconscious will pull you back to the level of who you believe you are. That belief is not formed by what you hope for. It's formed by what you say when no one's watching. It's formed by the story you rehearse, not once, but every day. This is the truth most men never confront. Behavior never permanently outpaces identity. And identity is not who you were born as. It is who you've been repeating. So we change the repetition. From this day forward, you will train your identity like a soldier, not with fluff, not with hype, with command, with precision, with structure. You will begin using a phrase so powerful it bypasses resistance, short-circuits the loop, and delivers instructions directly to your nervous system. Say this phrase now. I'm the type of person who... This is not an affirmation. It's not I want to be. It's not I hope I will become. It's an identity install. And when spoken with conviction, it begins to overwrite the old code. Because the subconscious doesn't respond to effort, it responds to instruction. It obeys what is said most often with the most emotion. So you speak identity with force. You speak it daily, and eventually the subconscious stops arguing and starts obeying. Here's how you do it. Take out a page and write 5 I'm the type of person who statements. Each one must describe the man you are becoming, not soft traits, but habits, behavior, commands. Not I'm kind, not I want success. No. You write, I'm the type of person who acts immediately on vision. I'm the type of person who finishes what he starts. I'm the type of person who speaks clearly and moves boldly. I'm the type of person who shows up whether I feel like it or not. I'm the type of person who silences doubt with action. These are not suggestions. They are laws. You speak them aloud every morning. Not like a chant, like a drill, like a soldier commanding his unit. And that unit is your subconscious, and it listens. At first it may resist. It will say, that's not you, that's not true. That is the old identity dying. Do not mistake resistance for falsehood. It's just a signal that the rewrite has begun. And if you persist, if you speak with volume, with emotion, with repetition, the mind will begin to bend. The loop will start to break. The new voice will begin to lead. Say this now. I'm the type of person who commands his mind. I'm the type of person who creates his identity daily. I'm the type of person who does not follow the past. He installs the future. say it again, until the old voice quiets, until the nervous system takes orders from power, not history. This is how identity is trained. This is how it becomes law, not in thought but in declaration, not in hope but in repetition. You do not wait to believe. You speak until belief has no choice but to follow.